We're coming up on Shabbat HaGadol, the Great Shabbat, which is traditionally a Shabbat where we turn our attention even more fully to Passover preparation. Of course, Pesach coming next week and beginning next Wednesday night. I'm sure our sits on Monday and Tuesday will be supporting us and leading us into the themes and the motifs of Passover. But I want to offer something today that is also Passover related, and it is a Bidikat Chametz practice. For those of you who are not familiar, you probably are familiar that it is tradition in Jewish practice to rid ourselves of what's known as chametz. It's a Hebrew word which has a connotation of sourness or fermentation, that which puffs things up or expands things, as opposed to matzah. So we search our homes, rid ourselves of chametz, and instead on Passover, we only matzah or matzah-related products, of course. And this is a symbolic practice of moving from a place of constriction to a place of expansion, from enslavement to freedom, as is the motif of the season, a process which we see even in the natural cycle, of course. So I'm going to share text briefly, and then we're going to move into our practice for today, because the practice of Bidikat Chametz, which is a really beautiful ritual, whether you strictly observe Passover or not, is the ritual of the night before Passover, placing 10 breadcrumbs or pieces of bread around your house and collecting them by the light of a candle, and sweeping them up one by one into a spoon, then segregating it, maybe putting it in a paper bag, and then in the morning, destroying that chametz, usually by burning it. It's called bi'ur chametz, or by destroying it, flushing it down the toilet or whatever, but burning it is obviously more powerful. After we rid ourselves of the chametz, there's a rabbinic recitation where we renounce any other chametz that we have not been able to find, and we let it go. It becomes a Jewish legal term called hefker, ownerless. It's as if we don't have it anymore. We don't own it anymore. We renounce it. It becomes hefker ka'afra da'ara, like the dust of the earth. So there is an actual physical, spiritual practice of literally searching for pieces of chametz, collecting it, destroying it, and then saying, whatever I didn't find, I'm letting it go. I'm free from that. That's an external practice. But we can also understand this on an internal level too. And I'm going to share very briefly two short texts. One is an early medieval text called the Kad HaKemach, which means basically like the cup of flour or container of flour, by Rabbi Bach ben Asher, a great teacher of Jewish ethics in the early medieval era. And he says, just as the Kabbalah comes instructing us to eradicate chametz, and livdok means to check the house in nooks and in cracks, in nooks and crannies, so too we are obligated to search and check the chambers of our inner being for bad intentions, for bad thoughts, hirurim, bad, what's the word for hirurim? I guess thoughts. Okay. And just as bidikat chametz, checking for chametz, is not valid by sunlight nor by moonlight, that is, we don't look for the chametz by sunlight or moonlight, or even the light of a torch, only by the light of a candle. So too the bidikah, the checking of the yetzer hara, the so-called evil inclination, must be by the light of the neshama, of the soul, which is called ner, candle. This, as is written in Proverbs, and I think we may have looked at this verse recently, ner Adonai nishmat adam, the candle of the Holy One is the soul of the human being. which searches the chambers of one's inner being. So it's just a very nice and concise way of saying that they're analogous to the external checking for chametz. We also can do an internal checking for chametz. And here I'm indebted to my colleague and friend, Rabbi Tobias Spitzer, who developed this practice that I want to share with you today. Because I want to, first of all, focus on what does chametz represent. She says chametz is understood as internal obstacles and negativity, our inner chametz, inner obstacles and negativity. And so Passover, before we enter into Passover, we need to clear out as much of that as possible. We can also think about these inner tendencies, she says, as selfishness, ego-centered, self-centeredness, greed, that is desire, excessive pride or ego, puffing up ourselves, negativity, harsh judgment of ourselves or others, and anything that really gets in the way of our actually being free from whatever it is, whatever patterns of thought or habits of being, which we would consider a state of enslavement, where we're really not able to free to allow our best qualities to flow through us. So she quotes in her teaching Rabbi Shapha Gold, and I'll go back to the screen share for a sec, and we'll move into our practice in a moment. She quotes Rabbi Shapha Gold, who teaches frequently for us here on the Daily Sit, saying, I've been experiencing matzah as the essence that we must return to, that we must rediscover in order to grow in purity and awareness towards our liberation. Chametz is the sourness. That's literally what the root of chametz means. Sourness, often unconscious, our inner sourness. It's the residue from suffering and disappointment. When chametz is left to its own, it causes inflation, which is the process whereby layers of false self build up to protect the essential core. I think that's worth repeating, because it's not that that inflation or that ego inflation creates this false self. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily, we can understand where it comes from, because it comes from the desire, the unconscious desire to protect our essential core. The trouble, she says, is that through this process, we also lose access to that essence. Before Pesach, the challenge, it seems to me, is to release those layers of false self and discern the sourness that gave rise to the layering, then to re-experience the essence, which is the unique spark at our core. So she kind of lays out the spiritual work of Passover as returning to our essential core, liberating ourselves from those layers that accumulate over the years, that are born from our injuries, our wounds, our traumas, whether our own or inherited traumas. And certainly when we're in a state of activation, when we're triggered, as it said, these really come to the fore, and it's harder to return to the core. So we're going to do a little bit of a Bidikat Chametz meditation for the next 15 minutes or so. So everyone's invited to set whatever you've got going on around you aside, and let's just be together, and give our full attention to preparing for Pesach as we move into Shabbat Hagadol. So let's take our seats, and if you're already sitting, might want to lift yourself up and resettle in your seat. Receive a few nice deep breaths into the belly as a way of resetting ourselves. And maybe really let it out, even audibly, whatever you're holding. We're holding quite a bit these days, so you might need to release that. And one more inhalation through the nose and out through the mouth. Let yourself make whatever sound you need to make, and see how that feels. You know what? How about one more? In through the nose. Let it fill the lungs and the belly. And now we can really land and begin. So we're going to go on our little inner chametz hunt. And our tools are a feather and a candle and a spoon. The candle is our individual neshama, our soul. So see if you can identify your soul inside your body somewhere. For me, it's helpful sometimes just to think of it as a kind of pilot light in the heart. See if you can imagine a candle burning there and spreading light throughout your chest and radiating out throughout your whole body and up into the mind. This is the light that we'll use Leavdok to check for chametz. Check in your pilot light, and as you breathe, maybe imagine that breath as it enters your body and leaves your body, coaxing the pilot light a little bit brighter. You might even become aware of the pores in your skin, which allow the light from within to flow out into the world, so that your body serves as a permeable container of light. And choose an anchor for your practice today. Something that can be a focal point of your attention that you'll come back to so that you can be flush with your experience in this moment. Be fully present, 100% here. It can be attention to the breath as you watch it arise and fall away. Notice it entering your body, notice it leaving your body, noticing its impact on your body. Your anchor might be, some people find the breath challenging for a variety of reasons. Your focal point might be sensations. Might notice tingling in your body or temperature of the air on your skin, temperature of the chair you're sitting on or the floor. And another anchor might be sound. You might just attune yourself to the ambient sound around you, street sounds or the sound of a bulb or your refrigerator buzzing. So our intention is to bring our awareness to those things and notice when our attention wanders off. And let's suggest that maybe that wandering off, whether it's to the past, thoughts of the past, or and ruminating about something, or reminiscing about something, or thinking about the future, about how things are going to turn out. Any of these things might arise from either desire or aversion. And see if you can identify whether your distraction is emerging out of your aversion to something. Something feels unpleasant, so I'm going to go look for something more pleasant right now. Maybe what's for dessert tonight? Oh, I guess I didn't want to be where I was. or desire. Think about those as a kind of chametz. Not that they're bad, not bad. We eat chametz all the time, but they keep us from really being present to what is true in this moment. So whenever you notice your mind going to the past or the future, or that you're in a state of aversion and avoidance or desire or clinging, take your feather and just collect that thought into a wooden spoon and dump it in a little paper bag in your mind or your imagination and come back to your anchor of breath, sensation, or sound. Be here now. Hineni, I am here. All it takes is one breath, one sensation, or one sound, and we're back home. So let's sit for the next 8 minutes or so in silence, and I'll bring us back at the end as we use that soul light to search out the chametz that keeps us from being true to who we are, true to our soul. Noticing desire for something that is not available to us right now in this moment. Noticing aversion to what is happening in this moment, maybe boredom or uncomfortable feelings. Noticing judgment or opinions arising. And each time one of those arises, we just take the feather, and as Rabbi Toba Spitzer advises us, just a little flick of a feather, very gentle and very lovingly collect that chametz, put it in your inner paper bag. Come back to the breath. Come back to sensations in the body, or come back to sound. Finally, for the last few minutes of our practice, we understand that these inner obstacles that keep us from offering our better selves, that get in the way of our freedom, that get in the way of our being our most authentic selves, of being honest and vulnerable and authentic. These serve us as well. These obstacles, sometimes they have protected us, but most importantly, they are not synonymous with who we are. We don't own them, and they don't own us. And so, let's set an intention as we bring our practice to a close to release the obstacles, and they will keep coming. But we will hold them lightly and with compassion, sweeping them up with a feather. And invite you to join me in setting an intention to say to those obstacles and hindrances, the inner ones, that I declare you ownerless like the dust of the earth. I release you so that I can be free. And if your eyes have been closed in our practice, I invite you to open them or bring your attention back to our group. Rub your hands together, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers too, if you like. Maybe look around your room, look around your space, remember where you are. And as we do each day, we'll seal our practice by acknowledging the grief that is experienced by so many of us and make space for the mourner's Kaddish. And those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard site are invited to recite the Kaddish. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, inviting you to stay present and support those who are for a moment. Thanks to Harry, who will share the words on the screen. And you can put the name or names of anybody you're honoring today in the chat now or after you recite Kaddish. And if you're joining me, please rise in body or in spirit as you like, and you can unmute and we'll recite the Kaddish together. Yitgadal,
Allah Uzman Karim
Heshmei Rabba Marach Le'olam Olol Me'al Maya.
Shmei Rabba Rach Le'olam Vaed Le'el Mayed Barach
Adar V'Yitalev
Amar
V'Yitlalel
V'Yitgal
V'Yitala
V'Yitala V'Yitalev
Elam Kol Birchat
Shel Bris
V'Shirata
Shira
V'Nechemata
Chata
Ram
Shira
Ba'amal
Nechemata Damiram V'Yimru
Araba
Amen
Mishpaim
Amaraba
Hayim
Mishpaim
Hayim
Olam
Shalom Bimromam, Shalom,
Shalom
Kal
Bimrolam
Yoshvei,
V'Yaseh
Ve'al
Shalom
V'Yavrom
V'Yakol
Israel.
Yisrael V'Yakol Yishmael V'Yakol Yoshvei Tevel V'Yakol Ha'olamim V'Yimru Amen.
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 Amen. Friends, thanks. May those the mourners among us be comforted, among all those who mourn, and thanks for everyone for staying and creating that space to hold space for the mourners. I want to thank Richard Green for sponsoring our practice today in loving memory of his mother, Eleanor Green, on the occasion of her 22nd yard site and in honor of Women's History Month. Beautiful dedication, Richard, and we're all grateful to you for supporting our practice today. And we're grateful to each and every one of you for showing up to support our practice today and creating this beautiful container to head together into Shabbat. Thanks to Harry Gilboa for holding our space, as always, beautifully. And sadly, we're going to need to end a little bit early today without the usual additional 15 minutes because I have to get to the airport and fly from LaGuardia Airport, and I'm quite anxious about making sure I get there with enough time to get through security to get on my plane. So I apologize for that. But I do want to thank everyone. Meg, I'll just oh, I like that. Thanks, Meg. Meg said, oops, that her feather swept the obstacles out directly, right through our container of light. That's beautiful.
But I also said thank you for the most beautiful guided meditation. This was just such a treat. I feel like I want to return to it every Friday afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm going to also do it physically. This I don't think I've ever done Biddy-cut.
Okay. All right. For those who don't know, I actually didn't include the traditional liturgy on the source sheet. Maybe Harry can put those two sources again in the chat. But in most Haggadot, at the beginning of the Haggadah, you'll find the text that's recited. There's a blessing before you search for the chametz. In the evening, there's another blessing you say before you burn or destroy the chametz in the morning. And then there's that formula of whatever I haven't found, I declare that it's ownerless. I don't have it. So whether you, like I said when we started, whether you're a traditionalist in your observance of Passover in terms of chametz or matzah, anybody can do this. And thanks for that, Meg. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll close for today. Wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom, a restorative Shabbat, and just a reminder that next week, because of Passover, we're meeting live together on Monday and Tuesday, but not Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. IGS will be closed for the holiday. And the following week, we will not meet on Wednesday and Thursday, 7th and 8th days of Passover, but we will meet on Monday and Tuesday and Friday of that week. So Shabbat Shalom to all, and hope to see you back here on Monday. Be well, everyone. Many blessings. Shabbat Shalom.